I was under so much pressure to provide. I just always felt I had to figure something out. I had to do something to provide for me and my family. I had to do something to even make myself feel like I was worthy of some type of success.
So this thing opened the door, this distress, right, with baby coming, losing your job, needing to figure it out, opens the door for you to spark this entrepreneurial person in you. That
I don't know somehow if I did or I didn't, but they say I logged in 2 hours that I didn't actually work, and they actually let me go.
What's up, Ani? Welcome to the TMCT podcast, bro. Thank you for being here. You have been such a pillar in my life, man. What's going on?
Man, I'm blessed to be here, man. Thank you for inviting me. I'm really looking forward to a conversation with you. You know, we've had some really heavy conversations, so I'm sure this one will be no different.
Bro, and that's the reason why you're here, because every single time we connect, ever since I moved from New York to Georgia, you were one of the first people I connected with when we he was doing real estate. Right. And I want you to talk about that for a little bit, but like the authenticity that you have had, and you know, we were the four housemen, right?
right.
And you've shared and poured so much into me and helping me even get my footing here.
Right.
And that was awesome. But I think even beyond the money that we've made together, the conversations that we've had, bro,
absolutely,
I think is so perfect for the TMCT podcast, and that's the reason why I had to invite you. And so, bro, you're an entrepreneur, and you've been an entrepreneur for a very long time. Let's start from there. Like, what made you get into entrepreneurship, and how long have you been an entrepreneur?
So I'll say what made me get into entrepreneurship really was my son. My son was born. I was working at a furniture wholesaler, and I was working there, and I was doing maybe 80 hours a week. I was really working, a lot of my time. I wasn't even really able to spend time with my son. He was just born, probably maybe not even 6 months yet. And I don't know somehow if I did or I didn't, but they say I logged in 2 hours that I didn't actually work, and they actually let me go. And this was like, I was depending on this money. Like, it was what I was using to feed my family, It was like all that I had. And I was giving everything that I had by spending 80 hours, 70 hours a week. And when they did that, a light bulb clicked in my head, like, I will never work for another person again. I will never allow anybody to control my future, my ability to feed my family and to eat. And that was the turning point for me. And that was probably in 1990. And I've never worked another job since then.
Wow.
Yeah.
What I want to highlight here for everyone is the fact of pain, right? Like, something happens, and a lot of people, they may blame them. They like, man, they lied on me or whatever, right?
Right.
But you took it as motivation, because you got this, your son is coming, and so you got to do something.
Absolutely.
At this point. And you made it into a motivation to figure it out. What was your first business that you started once you got out there?
Was actually wholesale furniture. So I went back to all of my guys who I worked with, and they let me go. And I was very tight with the crew, and the crew. And I kind of said, "Hey guys, listen, we're doing liquidations of major office buildings throughout New York City. What are the things that you guys are not keeping? What are the things you guys are throwing in the garbage when you're liquidating Shearson, Lehman, and Wall Street offices?" And they said, we're liquidating the couches, credenzas, desks. I'll take it. I went, bought me a van, and told them, hey, listen, I'll meet you here at 2 a.m, because that's what times we kind of liquidated. And I would fill up my van with as much furniture as I possibly could, and I rented out a warehouse space. And I would take it in, and I would go around to local businesses and sell them paper reams, pallets of paper, desks, office chairs, credenzas, traditional desks. I mean, just anything from office supplies I would sell. Phone systems, everything.
So your back is against the wall at this point, and you decide to jump into the thing that you're already doing.
Absolutely.
Right? You're like, okay, since I'm going to build my own thing. And was it successful? Like,
it fed me.
Yeah.
It fed me. I had no business structure,
Mm-hmm.
so I didn't really understand bookkeeping. I didn't understand anything about
Yeah.
it was like I make the money, I spend it on my son, right?
You're a solopreneur.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I had no understanding, but it definitely sparked the fire in me to say, hey, I can actually make more money than I was actually working 70 hours for someone else.
Wow.
I could actually make more money working less time for myself. And it was clear to me at that time, this is what I needed to do.
Bro, like that's so good, because most people, things happen to them, and instead of them realizing it happened to them, and they should take it to it happens for them, right?
Absolutely.
And so this thing opened the door, this distress, right?
Yes.
With baby coming, losing your job, needing to figure it out, opens the door for you to spark this entrepreneurial person in you. That
Absolutely.
Were you thinking about being an entrepreneur before that?
Yeah. I think I've always had design because my mom was very entrepreneurial, right? So she would sell handbags. She would always be doing something just from my peripheral that she was trying to do. So she's trying to get into real estate. I scammed a few times with some buy land in Florida, swamp land in Florida. and she spent the money and lost the money. But I would see, she was trying, right?
Yeah.
Just didn't have any guidance. So I always wanted it. And I don't know if anybody's familiar with Carlton Sheets. So I was the one that at literally probably about 18, I went to a Carlton Sheets seminar to buy his real estate course. At that time it was $1,000, which at that time was a lot of my money. So me and a buddy of mine put in the money together, $500 a piece, and never did anything with it because we just couldn't believe that you could buy a property with no money down. It was like just unbelievable. So we just read it, looked at the tapes, and at this point it was cassette tapes and VCR. And that was, so I've always had the burning desire to do my own. I just didn't know how. But when my back was against the wall, at the time, like I said, my son was here, I had to go and do it. Like I didn't have a choice at that point.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't like I could go and get another job as quickly as I wanted to. And then here it is, I'm sitting in front of the thing that I could sell to make money. There was no reason for me to divert him. I knew that it was right. The thing that I would be able to sell is in front of me, and I had access to it. So I just followed through with it.
I wish most people would realize that putting yourself under pressure is the best way to evolve as a person. And your story that you're sharing exemplifies that. And I think for many, like you listen to so many people who are super successful, it's because something happened. Because once you're comfortable, you never really get or try to evolve because it's like, why? Like life is okay, pretty good. And it's so crazy because that is not the definition of faith, right? And you're supposed to live by faith.
Right.
Comfort, like, totally X's out faith. Totally X's it out. But that's a whole different topic.
Right,
we'll talk about that.
Right.
So you go to the course, the Carlton Sheets course, don't really do anything with it. When did you get back into real estate? Because I know you did quite a few different businesses in New York. Yes. So let's talk about that. What are some of the other businesses that you did?
Oh, I've had juice bars, beauty salon, a magazine. I had a publishing company. I had debt collection agency. I've had, just so many businesses, and I just was always trying.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I never had the access to a mentor. So I tried to figure all this out on my own. Like it was like, and again, to lean to your point, all this was based on pressure. I was under so much pressure to provide. I just always felt I had to figure something out. I had to do something to provide for me and my family. I had to do something to even make myself feel like I was worthy of some type of success, right? Because I didn't have access to the job. At least I didn't feel I did. So it kind of required me to come out of myself and say, you know what? All of this pressure from outside sources, my mom, my dad, my family, my friends coming saying, what are you going to do? They has expectations of me, and it caused me to raise the expectation of myself for myself. And that's one of the things that drove me to say, I have to just continually go after it. Fail, I just try again. Fail, I just try again. And that was my journey was just consistent entrepreneurial attempts at trying something, throwing parties, anything that I could possibly do to make some money. I just tried it, and then like I said, I I don't think I had the structure that I needed at those times, right? The understanding of how to structure the business with operations and putting those standardized operations in place so that they could continue without me. I just didn't understand it at that point.
Man, that's so good, bro, because you talked about you didn't have a mentor, right? How important for you, because you've tried so many different things, and there are so many people out there, especially us as men, as providers, right?
Absolutely.
We try a few things and then we stop. And then we start to question ourselves, start to question our worthiness, start to question like if you're actually a man, right? Because we have this vision of what this American man standard is supposed to be. How did you navigate going through, and how were you able to move on so well from one thing to the next through that time?
Complete faith and belief that I was worthy and I could do it. It was a unwavering thought in my mind that I was supposed to be wealthy, that I was supposed to be successful.
Where did that come from?
I'm gonna say that it came partially from reading a lot. I read a lot as a kid, right? I believed in a lot of self-help and self-growth books. So even at 15, I was reading like really, really high-level books. And it just constantly unlocked keys in me that said, you are, I am. I had to accept that I am whatever it is that I wanted. I had to really become and believe that, right? And I believed that I was supposed to be in a nice car. I believed that I was supposed to have nice things, even though I didn't, right? I believed it, and that was one of the things that kind of told me, like, all right, well, in order for you to get those things, what do you have to be? You have to be a dedicated businessman. You have to constantly always be thinking of how you can do it, and that you are already that thing. Like, it wasn't like, it was partially a becoming, but it was already you are. So you are more not becoming, but evolving into what you already are. I was already successful. Even in my small business, I was successful. And that success built on another level of success. And that confidence that came with that allowed me to take a bigger leap. And then when I had more money, I would say, okay, well, now I'm gonna try something a little bit bigger, a little bit grander. And it just kept escalating to the point where I just felt free that I knew at this point that I could do it. I'll give you one. I had one mentor, a friend of mine, his father, his name is, and I to this day, I always shout him out, Ralph Blakeney. He took me. He was a Fortune 500 manager developer. So he would go to all these Fortune 500, Dell and all these companies. So one day he just said, come here. He was in Maryland. I had to drive all the way to Maryland. And one day he took me, he sat me down, and he just said, I want you to just write these things down. He gave me a bunch of little homework assignments. And he said, you got it. He said, I'm around, big, high-level C-suite executives. You have it. You just are not refined. You just don't understand that there are processes that have to be in place. You have it through straight grit.
Wow.
That you're just not going to give up. He said, but in order for you to move to another level, you got to stop hustling and start being a businessman.
Woo!
You got to stop that, right? That's the part that's kind of holding you back, because you think you got to do everything yourself and hustle your way out of it. It's not the way. There are specific things that need to be done in sequence to get to where you want to go. And he said, you have to start doing that. And that was like a huge turning point for me, because at this time I was in real estate. So just to go back to what you were asking me, this was 2000, 2001 when I started like really going into real estate, right? And my properties were in Maryland. I bought a couple of properties in Maryland, and that's where he lived. So he was like really helping me to put my books together, manage these properly. And this is what he was kind of explaining to me, like, hey, Ani, you have to look at it as a business and not a hustle, not keep thinking you're just going to take the money and spend the money on your clothes or spend the money on it. No, it has to go back into what's the next property you're looking to buy? What's the next venture that you're going to go into? That money should be set aside to do that.
Yeah.
And that was my indoctrination to understanding that my ability was already there. I needed to just evolve I needed to grow. I needed to be watered. And that was it. And then even him as a mentor, one, because he was out of state and I had to drive to him all the time. Two was that I think I just didn't understand his value at that time to me, right?
Yeah,
I couldn't see it.
Yeah.
He was just a guy. He was my friend's father.
Yeah.
He just helped me out a little bit. But then I was off to the races again, not knowing that I needed him to keep watering me so that I could grow properly. And I wish that I had done that.
Isn't it crazy where they talk about familiarity breeds contempt, and you just really don't get the value. You don't think it's valuable until it's gone, or
right.
When you look back. And then as knucklehead kids growing up, we say like, no, that's not how you do it. This is how you, like, I'm gonna hustle my way through versus just listening to someone, right? But I want to ask you, man, like, how were you able to go through that belief in yourself? And although you're being watered by Ralph and all these, maybe a few other people, how are you able to have that belief in yourself, pass that on to your family members, right? Because you're, I don't know if it's your wife or your son's mom at the time. She's looking for milk and Pampers, right? She wants milk and Pampers.
Yes.
You going on belief and not the
Right.
check, right? And so how are you able to maintain or have that conversation where you believe? Did she believe and was just like, man, no stress, I believe in you? Or was it like high stress on that side and you're just like, I gotta keep my focus? What was that like?
I would say I provided. I provided. I brought the money in, and I did everything that I could within my means to say, hey, at the time it was Jordans and things like that, right? So hey, here it goes. So here, you want to be throwing a party? Here, we want to eat this. He wants to go to private school, and I did that, and I think that gave me a little bit of leniency, right? Like, all right, go ahead, keep doing what you're doing. The minute you ain't got no money, though, you know what I'm saying? You ain't got to talk about you getting a job, right? So, but she knew, I think, in her heart, she knew that I would never get a job. She knew how hurt I was from being fired when my son was literally had jaundice and he was in an incubator for 3 weeks and I couldn't even come and see him. And to say I sacrificed to work for that company and for them to fire me, she knew that was like a burning thing, like it was just burning me. So there's no way that I was going back. Once I made that conscious decision that was it, so she gave me that leeway. So I would say that for me to be able to do that and be supported was because I never wavered in my ability to actually provide. I think if I had fell on, and I don't want to say I never fell on hard times because I did, but I think you get a little bit of leeway because of the credits that you've already kind of stacked away, right? So it's like kind of like you knew, all right, let me give him a chance. He's hungry right now, he's hurt, but let me give him a chance to bounce back. I think if the hurt and the pain would have or the not having would have lasted a little too long, then it would have been a different conversation, right? But I think, all right, I'm down for 6 months. Everything's not good, but I'm still getting a couple of dollars here and there. I'll sacrifice myself and pitch it over here. So that's what allowed her to get on board. So I don't know if she ever really got on board in terms of me being an entrepreneur because I was only a hustler. I really wasn't a businessman. I was a hustler. So you can see me hustling every day. I'm on the phone, I'm doing this, I'm outside, I'm not coming home. So you see me hustling. So I'm guessing it was like a belief, like he's gonna come with that money.
He's gonna make something happen.
Right.
And what you hit so many major points. Like there's so many different angles to go at. But right now I want to encourage the men that's listening right now, because a lot of people don't feel supported by their significant other. They don't feel supported, and it's because they haven't gone out and killed something, right? Like I see a lot of men and talk to a lot of men that they don't even keep the commitment of going to the gym for themselves, but then they've been doing a 9-to-5 for a long time. They tell their wife or partner or whatever, hey, I'm going to go after this real estate. I'm going to start doing this thing. And they don't get that support because they don't have their partner doesn't have the belief in them, right? And you were able to provide, which installed belief in your partner for her to not stress you out because you're bringing the bacon home.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And so to the men that's out there that's listening, like there's a level of proving yourself that needs to happen. And if you're working a 9-to-5 job right now, I think it's very different. And like, that's not really proving yourself, right? She trusts you in the security, but in the things that you said you were going to do and you never really fulfilled your mission and your whatever you said you were going to do, then it's hard for them to trust
Follow
you.
through on it, right?
You know what I mean? And that was something that I had to go through. Not that I was dropping the ball. I married my wife after 6 months, right, of meeting her. So her being a independent woman, she was just like, well, bro, you got to kind of prove this first, right? Like, you got to kind of prove this first.
Absolutely, prove out this concept.
Exactly, right? And so we had to work through some things there, and that's a different conversation. But moving to real estate, you got into real estate, and you started to, when did you start making that, like, understanding of, I need to stop hustling and I need to be a businessman? Because I think that could help a lot of men right now.
I think that kind of became apparent and clear to me when I realized that there was a ceiling that I was hitting, hustling, because it required me to be there to hustle, right? I couldn't bring nobody could hustle like me. It was all based on my energy, right? And I think I saw myself at times when I just didn't have 100% of energy, then I didn't get 100% of money, right? So, which is not business.
Yeah.
Business works when you're on vacation and when you're not on vacation, right? When you're taking a step back and you're sick and you're cold, and the business is still working, right? And I realized that at this point, well, wait a minute, then I don't really have a business per se. I'm in business, but I don't have a business, right? Because I am the business at this point. And that was where the clarity came to me, like, all right, Ani, you got to start delegating. You have to start trusting others. You know, you got to start allowing other people to get involved and share, and not feel like you need to. So it became less ego driven for me, right? I had to let go of that ego of me wanting to be this man that showed everybody that I could do it, and say, hey, you know what, listen, I actually need you. I actually want you to come and be a part of this. I actually want to share what I'm doing, and hopefully it'll benefit you and your family as well. And let's do this together. And that's when cooperative economics started really coming into mind, that this is how I had to kind of shift. And in order to do that, it requires systems, because people now have to follow systems. And then that's when business became an understanding for me. Operating procedures became something I understood, right? It's changed.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, when you were a solopreneur, you ran up into another pain point, right? You got to another pain point and you were like, something has to happen, because if I don't work, then I don't get paid. And so you kind of decided to figure it out. How were you able to start changing your habits from being that? Because wanting 100% of the pie is kind of like how we were raised, you know, like, like partnerships is not something that I was taught, like sharing just wasn't a part of it.
No.
So how were you able to get out of the, and I'm going to generalize things here, the crab in a bucket mentality of not wanting other people in your team and all of that is just like, I want 100% of the 100% to becoming a business leader and getting 20% of the 100% because you're feeding the other 80%.
I think that came with meeting someone, a partner of mine, my first real partner, and realizing that he had a skill that I didn't have, and realizing I needed that skill. And in order for me to really do certain things, I needed him to be there. And at that point, I realized, all right, I can't do it by myself. And so he had a gift of being able to talk to anyone and get them to buy into whatever it is that we decided to do. Something that I didn't do because I was so kind of on my own, fighting the world almost, feeling like I'm always against something, like I'm always in resistance to something, right? That I didn't do that. It's either you lay down and you get down with what I'm doing, or I'm gonna push you over and I'm gonna bowl you over. That's my mentality.
Do you think that came from getting fired?
I think that came from being raised in a very rough environment.
Okay.
I think that came from literally having to survive, not monetarily wise, but having to survive physically and emotionally in a very rough environment. It was not, it was very violent. It was very, so I always on a protective mode, right? I always had a sense of like, I gotta, boss my way through something. And that translated into business. It translated how I would treat people. A lot of my relationships were very transactional, because if you can do this for me, then we good. If not, I don't even have a lot of time to even waste time talking to you, which wasn't good, because I sacrificed good relationships that could have been nurtured into things that I now understand as a man that I needed as a young boy and as a growing teenager and all those other adolescent stages. It just was very clear to me, once I met my partner, together we're gonna make some real money. Like, wow. It was clear to me at that point.
I kind of want to go deeper in the how you were raised piece.
Absolutely.
Because I think that most people, especially us men, do not go back enough to understand that the reason why we're doing things and the way that we perceive things is based on how we were raised.
Absolutely.
So if you don't mind, man, like you said that things were rough. You had to kind of fend for yourself. Like, why?
Okay, so it was a cycle. Latchkey kid amongst 30 other latchkey kids.
What do you mean latchkey?
Home alone all day long. Mother working, single home, single parent home. Me and my brother. Basically come home, latchkey, just come home with the key, and I'm in the house, or I go outside, I'm outside till 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night. And in those times, I'm around every age group. So I'm around, at this time, let's just say I'm 13. I'm around 17-year-olds and 20-year-olds, and they're rougher. They're in the street. They're doing things, right? So I'm getting this firsthand vision of fights and violence and things happening and robbery and things of this nature, right?
And you're in New York City at this
And I'm
point.
in New York City at this point, I'm in New York City.
For
I'm in
sure.
Brooklyn. I'm in the heart of it. I'm in the heart of it. And, it was very trauma. I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm glad you said it, because it's super important, man, that we don't really understand that how much our past dictates how we see what we're going through in the present. I was afraid. I know that now. I was afraid every day, because I just knew that at any moment, anything could happen. I've seen so many people shot, stabbed, cut, fought, jumped, beat up, traumatized emotionally. Like, I remember the older guys giving guys wedgies and pulling their underwears over their head, like literally, like they bleeding almost, So it was like, for me, I was like, oh my God, if that happens, at first I'm scared, but then I had to grow. I had to grow
tough.
You do that to me, I'm going to get my stick. I'm going to get a knife. I'm going to do something to you at any chance. But that mentality kind of translated into business now, right? When I first started, like, if you don't give me what I need, I'm going to take it. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to figure out a way to get you out the way, and I'm going to get to where I got to go to, because nothing's going to stop me. Instead of being cooperative, because I didn't have that in my psyche. I didn't have cooperation in my psyche. I had either you win or I win.
Stand for yourself.
There is no cooperation in this. Because you're my friend, but yet you'll still try to steal my money if I left it hanging out my pocket.
Exactly.
But I consider you my friend. So where is the line between a friendship and an enemy? And these blurred lines and these trauma relationships that I was having weren't healthy, and I didn't know that at the time, because all I knew. It was just like, these were, and I consider these brothers to the day. These are my brothers, but at that time and what we were going through, I don't think any of us knew that we were going through trauma, that we were going through a dysfunctional lifestyle. We had nothing to compare it to other than TV, which wasn't relatable to us, because that wasn't reality to me, right? I couldn't look at TV and say that I was ever going to be in a house with picket fence and this and that. That wasn't my reality. I was in tenements with 700 apartments in a building, right? And we all on top of each other. We all got we all sharing sugar. Hey, Miss Johnson, can I get some, some sugar? Where we didn't have this. So that was my reality. My reality. So in the trauma of that, I think that realizing, and this is where I say being a reader helped me to start to identify at a younger age that I was seeing things or I was understanding things that were trauma, that weren't good, that weren't healthy for me. I was saying to myself, nah, this can't be life. This can't be reality, because everybody's not doing this, right? Like, this is just me, And lucky thing, my mother, God bless her, she took me to Africa at a very young age.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
16 years old.
Oh, wow.
And that was like I'm in the midst of the jungle, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
she took me out and took me to Africa, and I saw love amongst brothers. I saw love amongst people, holding hands, talking. I saw them respecting and honoring each other, right? I just saw a different community of people at that point, and a different way that they were relating to each other. And I came back a different person. Like literally, that was like a huge changing point in my life. And I'm not saying it totally changed me. I was still,
you still had to.
I still had to do my thing, right?
Yeah.
But when I came back, my immediate thing was to run to my friends and say, "Yo, there's something different out there, bro. Like the things we thinking we got to be doing and how we treating it. Nah."
Isn't it crazy how your environment controls like your thoughts and everything?
Every single bit of it.
Hey guys, I hope you're getting incredible value from this podcast. Now, don't forget to subscribe, like this page, but also follow our Instagram page for a lot more gems. No, like seriously, go in this description below and do it now. Now back to this episode.
And like you said, when you came back, you were inspired by the idea of something else exists.
Yes.
But your behaviors and your habits, which I like to call paradigms, kept you, right? Because now you got to overcome and crush those paradigms.
Absolutely.
Right? And so although you believed in something else, in that moment you couldn't get out of it because you're back in that environment.
I went right back to it.
You know what I mean? And I tell people all the time, like, if you really, really, really want to change, now there are people who has changed within their environment, and man, that's amazing.
Right.
But to anyone that, like, you are committed to change, one of the fastest ways to get out of, to get real transformation and change is getting out of your current environment.
Absolutely.
You may not know it and understand it right now, but you're molded because of your environment. And so thanks for sharing that, bro, because I think that's really deep, because men don't realize the traumas that we have.
We don't.
Right? And digging into it, that's something that when I was going through my transformation process, I had to start really digging into, man, what got me all jacked up like this, right? Like, I became curious, bro.
Right,
you know,
right.
And so digging in was the way that I became free. Or freer still.
Yes.
I think there's always going to be things that I'm going to be working through, but it made me get a sense of liberty to start living the life that we live today. And so let's fast forward to where you are today. Real estate investor, business buyer, like you learned these systems.
Yes.
Right? You got mentors. I got to make this super clear. Every time you elevated, it was because of someone else.
Yes, indeed.
And I don't, like, if you're listening right now, don't skip over that.
Right.
Right?
Please don't.
Don't skip over that, because every elevation that you've done, and so right now you're doing all right.
I'm doing okay.
Right now you're doing all right. Talk
okay.
about where you are today in business and that type of thing.
Well, today I'm, we own about 4 businesses that we've purchased. Well, 3 we've purchased. 2 of them we actually started. We own a recording studio. We own a real estate company. We own a coffee company. We own, obviously, rental properties. So, we're doing all right, and then we're kind of in talks on some other things that are coming down the line, which are really, really big, and I'm really excited about. I'm really looking forward to it. But
so
it's been a journey.
You've kind of elevated from doing selling furniture,
absolutely,
to where you are now,
yes,
and now do you still have, how many kids do you have, and
right
what does
now,
life look
I have
like?
5. So
Right?
I have 5 kids now. 3 of my children are older from previous relationship, and my 2 younger kids with my wife now. And that has to be one of the biggest blessings that I've been blessed with more than anything, is having the opportunity to, as a mature man, have this opportunity to raise extremely healthy human beings with good character, with a understanding of who they are, because I understood who I am now, right? So out of everything that I've accomplished, I think that is probably my biggest accomplishment. And the one thing that I take so much pride in is the amount of energy that I pour into them, which I didn't have the opportunity to do with my older children.
That's huge, because I was gonna ask, because I know when you had your first kid, when you were kind of trying to make things work, and this was you kind of discovering yourself. You didn't even know what you didn't know at that point in time, but your son was about to be born. And so your kids, your more recent kids, you have a different opportunity. You're a different person. What are the differences with your older kids when you were trying to when you were a kid yourself and your more mature self, kids? Like, what are the differences between kids? Like, here's
what I say first. I love you all, please. I love
For
you.
sure.
I love you with all my heart. They know that I've made these mistakes. I've had very candid and realistic conversations with my older children, and I actually apologize to them.
What did you apologize for?
For not being aware of what they needed and deluding myself with the fact that I thought that I was doing it for them, but I wasn't. I was doing it for my own ego. A lot of my grinding, my hustling, it really wasn't for them. It was for me to satisfy my ego, saying I did it. I could do it. Now, did they get the benefits of that? Of course. They went on trips. We've been around the world. So that they got, but that's not enough. We're talking about feeding a whole human being. We're feeding a whole character, a whole soul, a whole person. And you can't do that without intention, being intentional in that, right? And I wasn't intentional with it consistently. I would come in with some wisdom, and then I'm gone, because now you don't see me for another, week, because I'm out hustling. I'm doing all over the place, right? But now with my younger children, they see me every day. I take them to school. They hear my voice. I know now patience is something that I have. I didn't have patience then, because I didn't have time to talk Google Gaga. I didn't have time to play ball. I was like, I got to get out of here. I got to go somewhere. The money's waiting, right? Now I can say, no, you know what? Come on, let's go. Let's go for a walk. Let's just go for a walk. Let's go play. Let's go hang out.
Bro, I want to dive deeper into that, because as an entrepreneur, especially a newer entrepreneur, you get into this go, and what I hear, and I've probably said it to my wife more than my son, I'm doing this for y'all, right? I've definitely said it.
Absolutely.
But what I'm hearing from you is that anytime you find yourself on that path, you're doing it because of your ego, and you don't realize the fruits until later on in life, because of what? Because
you have to look back, and then you see the person, and then you'll see what they're devoid of. That's what allowed me to know that I wasn't doing it for them. Because if I was doing it for them, they would have had a lot more. They would have had a lot more understanding.
And I think you just said it, because you don't mean a lot more gifts.
Nope. They would have had a lot more character, a lot more confidence, a lot more love in them, a lot more sense of security, because they would have known my father's there all the time to answer my questions, to guide me through dating, this, that, fight, whatever it was. He was there, but I'm not, because mentally I'm in business. I'm worried more about my transactional relationships with people who are making me money than I am for my children. Because that was my identity. My identity was, when you seen Ani, you knew that he was going to get some money. He was out there going to get it. Like, it wasn't no question. It was like, and that became my badge of honor, which I thought was bigger than, or I didn't even think it became bigger than my badge of honor of saying, that's a great father. That's a great husband. That's a great man to his girlfriend, whatever that was at the time, right? That wasn't what was important to me. What was important to me, that's a hustler right there. That was my badge.
Would you have changed that with what you know now?
Yes, because I've seen the effects on my children. I would have changed that. I would have definitely changed that. Absolutely. Because we're talking about human beings.
Yeah.
And human beings that you brought into the world, that you're responsible for, that, God has given you the responsibility to nurture these beings. Now, what they're going to do is what they're going to do.
Sure.
We can't control what they're going to become, right? But we can at least give them the guidance and the tools necessary for them to fight in a world that's going to come at them. The world is designed for resistance. You have to overcome. There's resistance every day, right? You step on the pedal in your car, that's resistance going against the pedal to make you go forward. It's just a natural, as a flower has to go through resistance of the dirt to become this beautiful flower. There's no way to get around resistance, right? So when we understand that, I said, I would have wished that I would have prepared them more consistently. Now, I gave them high-level wisdom because I told you I've been reading since I was a kid. So I would give them, but how do you tell an 8-year-old you're the master of the universe? You can create anything you want and then walk away.
Yeah, you got to show them.
You got to show them consistently.
You got to show them.
You got to show them consistently. And I didn't do that. So if I had the opportunity, that would be one thing that I would definitely do over. Definitely.
Man, I feel like this is so powerful, bro, because most people, and right now, I'm here in Georgia. My son is in New York City. Him and his mom and I split up over a decade ago, right? And I do everything in my power to call him every day, have certain types of conversations with him, and guide, but I'm not there. Right. And now I'm not there. It's been 3 years since we've moved here.
Got it.
And we've had candid conversations about me leaving, where, he's told me that he was hurt. Right. And this was when he's 13 now. So I think when he was 12 or somewhere 11, 12, we had this conversation. Because I like to have real, raw conversations with my son and not treat him like he's a kid, but he understands stuff, right? Yeah. And he told me he was hurt when I left. And although he could verbally say why I left, which it was to be there for my wife's mom who had leukemia at the time, and every adult could understand that.
Right.
But could a kid really understand that? Because what I believe they see is you've taken your love away and went somewhere else with it.
Absolutely.
Right? And so regardless of me trying to call him every day, and we stay on like Google Meets doing homework. Like I try in every single way to be the best dad that I can, virtually. I call it, like, sometimes I'm like I'm a virtual dad, right?
Yeah.
I fly to New York ever so often to spend a couple weeks there just to be there. But there's something that I'll never be able to undo. And I know it. Right. And it's like, I have this conversation with my current wife, Jazz, about what it could potentially look like. And on Sunday I was running and I felt like God downloaded something into me. And just last Sunday, and it's me actually taking him to a therapist now. And the reason why is because when I think about some of the traumas that I've been through in a family where my parents are together, they never left, like things happen, right? But there were things that he is going through that he may not be able to verbalize, or even if I ask, he wouldn't know how to process it and say it out to me. Right. Because he may not want to hurt me, or he may think he might get in trouble, or anything like that. What are your thoughts on that?
Wow, that's listen. I would say, first of all, just the thought and idea of therapy, man. Hats off to you, brother, because I think that they tell us in our community that therapy means you're crazy, right? I ain't going to see no therapist, right? I ain't going to see no shrink,
right?
The dumbest thing we've ever been taught, man. There's a science to that. There is a need. You trying to heal yourself from those mental traumas is almost impossible to take a lifetime. Those therapists who are trained and actually have true love for their craft and love for the patient that they're dealing with, can unlock certain things for you a lot sooner and allow you to forego the pain that you will cause yourself and others during the discovery process, because you're going to cause pain. Hurt people. There's no way to get around it. So for you to give that gift to your son at that age and allow him to be able to say, release, I'm not going to tell your dad, just you tell me whatever you want and you open that up to me, and then that allows him to talk out. Because who is he talking to without? If not, he can't, like you said, he doesn't want to talk fully to you because he doesn't want to hurt you, because he loves you, right? He doesn't want to hurt you. He doesn't want to disappoint you. He doesn't want to make you feel bad, because he wants you to what? Come back. Yeah. He wants you to come get him. So he's not going to say anything that's going to repel you and make you go away. So he's going to make sure he says the right thing to say, oh, no, I love you. But that's not really what may be in his heart. He may have pain in his heart that until he gets that out, there'll be a blockage of him being able to truly express himself to you.
Bro.
You know?
You know what the crazy thing is that we try to avoid and provide a better life for our kids than better than the ones that we had.
Right.
And some way, somehow, we end up doing the same thing. And as you're speaking right now, I definitely, there were things that I seen from my dad that made me be quiet, and I wasn't able to talk about it until my 30s. Until my 30s, I was able to get resolution on it, and that's how the person that you know now today was birthed. Right?
Power.
And there are things that I have a really strong feeling that he doesn't know how to verbalize right now. And I mean, and I have these conversations with my wife. I'm really transparent with her. I'm like, I was dating this young lady for 5 years, and my son was around. This was his second mom at that point in time, right? We were engaged to be married, and she gave me back my ring. That's a whole other conversation and episode, right?
Okay.
But all of a sudden, this person is gone.
Right. Yes.
A very 2-minute conversation about it, she wouldn't be around.
Right.
Then I introduced somebody else for a brief moment of time, somebody that I thought may have been it.
Right.
That didn't work out.
Right.
Gone. And now my wife.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was 5, 6, like growing up, being around this person, no end.
Yeah.
A different person. No end.
No end.
A new person. What have I created?
What does that teach him?
What does that teach him?
Absolutely.
Right? And we've had conversations about his mom and why me and his mom didn't work out.
Right.
And I've just kind of summed it up to I wasn't mature enough. Right? I took full responsibility. It's not, I'm not painting her in a bad picture.
Yes.
And me and his mom were really good friends. My wife and I, we hang out with her guy and her. And so like he sees that, but I don't think that's where his struggle is.
Right.
Or where he could be. And I'm not saying that this might be a factual truth because I don't know.
Right. Right.
But what if, bro?
And
it's a big what if.
That's a big chance to take.
Yeah.
Right? It's more important to actually find that out than to just go off of what you think it could be. Right. It's almost like playing with somebody's life because I'm telling you, as a man who's been through it, if I could have gotten him the help, it would have solved or helped him navigate through a lot of problems that he wouldn't have emotionally, like with girlfriends and with things that if I would have taken those steps to say what you're talking about doing and gotten him that therapy, it could have changed the course of where they are today. And if we're going to be the stewards, the custodians of these lives that have been kind of gifted to us, right? We have to take that responsibility. We have to be honest and say, yo, listen, we have to take huge, uncomfortable steps to ensure their safety. Not just in providing them food, but in providing them a self-worth, providing them the ability to communicate, and providing them the ability, like I said, be good citizens, good human beings. Like, we know what this world is about. We know this world has got vicious cycles, right? But the good human being is a good human being regardless of what's going on around them, right? And if you can give them that, I think you give them the key to opportunity.
Oh yeah, man.
You know?
Yeah.
Because now they can talk to people, they have relationships, they have even relationships with their professors, with their college buddies, they're this and that.
They're free.
They're free.
They're free.
They're free from those constraints of dysfunctional thinking. And I think that is a huge gift. And that, to me, would have been something that if I could have redid or saw some things that I could have done differently, that would have been a major one for me. A major one for me to do that.
Man, and that's just on my side. What about on his mom's side? Let me call the therapist right now.
911. We need you right away. No, absolutely.
No,
absolutely.
man, that's major. And bro, so let's shift gears and in wrapping up, right? Because you have a different life that you're able to provide for your more recent kids.
Yes.
How about your wife? How is navigating a blended home where you have kids from outside that's way more grown than even the kids that you guys have together? Like, what does that look like?
We got another hour? No, I'm just sure.
We do need another episode,
but
bro.
Our boy, absolutely. What I will say is, it's a challenge. It's a constant challenge, but as with any, it's work. It's consistent work and effort. You're now having to deal with the paradigms of the woman because you don't know what she's going through throughout her childhood that she's carrying, her relationship of dating life, what her father's relationship was like with her. You don't really know how she processed. She probably didn't go to a therapist. So my wife now, she has father issues based on the fact that her father and her mom got divorced at a younger age. That could alone needs its own therapy, let alone how she's going to deal with a man who now has other children, who has his own temperaments and angers. What triggers her? We don't, you know what I mean? So like, does my aggressiveness trigger her? Does my does me saying I'm leaving, I'm gonna walk out, I'm gonna go outside? Does she have abandonment issues based on her past relationship with her? It's so many levels to that I think now it's for her and I, it's a constant challenge. So what we've done, some of the things that we've done, just to give you an idea, we'll maybe get an app that may be like how to be intentional in your marriage. And it may require us to read some scriptures, or it may require us to just read some things that are really mind-opening, right, or thought-provoking. And then we'll get into that conversation and say, well, what would it look like for you if I was to be this supportive and do? And then what do you need from me? And then I have to ask the same question, and she has to. And it's an uncomfortable situation. It's really uncomfortable conversations, but they require you to dig within, because if you're going to answer that question honestly, it's not a question you answer the spur of the moment. It's a question that you got to think about. And that opening of the way, so to speak, that opening of that way to really reach a level of understanding is, I think, been our saving grace. Because outside of that, this is a cold world. We talking about a person, a woman, and a man who is being influenced by thousands of things that are not healthy, right? TV, music, people breaking up, blah, 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 blah. Cheatings, all these different things. Exactly. Everything. You're seeing everything. How do you navigate that without having a spiritual or strong foundation? Like, it's almost, so you have to build that. And that is what I think has been able, like me and my wife and my children, we get together on Sundays, and whether church or inside the church or outside the church, we make sure we read something. And it's everybody's involved. Like when I say that, meaning like I ask my children, what do you think about what I just read to you? You need me to break it down in simpler terms? Because, you get the ye and the thee and the theys, right? They don't understand that, right? So you got to break it down a little bit simpler. And then when I do that, I say, well, what did you think? How would you utilize that? How would you do that? How do you see that? And then the same thing with my wife. I ask her, she'll ask me, and we'll have this discussion.
Comprehension type question.
And that helps us to kind of have a foundation to build off of. It helps us have a foundation.
Bro, there's so many questions. I feel like it would be wise for us to stop here. I feel like it would be wise because there has to be a part 2 just on blended families.
Absolutely. It's a
right?
lot.
Because especially with the life that you live now
Mm-hmm.
and how you're able to navigate that, and like you said, we're only just talking about the foundation, the
Absolutely.
spiritual aspect right
Mhm.
now,
Right.
because then there's the physical aspect and the habits and the things that each person have to become whole on their own and come together. And there's so many questions behind how do you deal with that? Is that
Yes.
something that typically,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if this is true for you, but typically one person is pursuing advancing themselves and becoming whole more than the other person, and the other person needs to practice more patience.
Mm-hmm.
And as a leader, like, I just have so many questions around this
It's a lot.
that I think that we need to have a part two. I think
so.
this is a great place
Yeah, I think so too.
because I could see us going really deep and
Yeah.
sharing. I know we've shared stories
Absolutely.
and conversations with each
Absolutely.
other, and I know where it could go. So, like,
right.
guys,
Deep into the cave, right?
we gonna go really deep in the cave one of these days, and have Ani come back, bro. Thank
I would
you
love
so
to.
much for being here,
Absolutely,
man.
bro. It's a blessing
This was
always,
amazing,
man. I
man.
appreciate it. I appreciate getting to talk to your audience and kind of, share my story, which is very important to me, to see other people uplifted and finding their way to healthy relationships and a healthy life for themselves.
Yeah.
It's very important. Yeah. So I'm
Man.
happy to do that, brother. Happy to
Man,
do
so
that.
you do real estate, you buy businesses. If somebody had a business that they want to sell, how could they reach out to you? Like,
Absolutely. Please reach out to me. You can email me at ani@genwealthacquisitions.com. Again, that's going to be ani at gen.
how you spell Ani?
ANI. Very simple. ANI at Gen Wealth. That's going to be GEN Wealth, WEALTH, acquisitions, ACQUISITION with a S.com. And you reach out to me, send me an email, let me know what you got, what you're thinking about, even if you just want to talk about how you can kind of be a part of buying businesses as well and learn how to do that on your own. I'm more than happy to teach. We actually have events that Keston actually came to the other day where we actually help people learn how to get involved in business acquisition and mergers.
Yeah.
So please reach out if anybody's interested.
Absolutely. And we're going to have Ani's information in the description below. So, guys, if you want to be a part of the TMCT Facebook group where we share a lot of information with each other, if you're a married person in business and real estate and you want to just kind of be a part of the cave, like, hit us up, join the Facebook group. We'd love to have you there. It's like we go through a very, very particular process of screening people to keep the group authentic to its audience. And our audience is men in real estate, married men in real estate. Doesn't mean that you can't be seriously dating. We give you a pass. But we really want the conversation to continue so that we could uplift each other and continue on. So if that's you, I'd love to have you in the group. The group is growing really, really fast. So make sure you be a part of it. Ani, bro, thank you so much for this episode. This was amazing. Until next time, guys, peace and love.
Thank you, bro. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Bro.
Wow. Fantastic,
good,
bro.
bro.
Absolutely. I had a
was
good
good.
time. That was really good.